Welcome back. Glad to have you here. Thanks for finding my webpage. Again, these videos are here just for you to help you in self-mastery, to help you be the best you that's possible. And I think we all need a coach, and I'd like to think that you're tuning into this because maybe I'm one small voice in your life on your journey to reach your dream life. Over the first 3 videos on this page deal with a teaching that my friend and I and partner at Olin Leadership, we do coaching around these 4 rungs in the ladder. And as you've watched the other videos, perhaps you know that number 1, to get you to your dream life, we start with values. What are my values? Then we move into habits and building habits around those values. Then on rung number 4, we move into the mindset, because what we think about is where we go about. And then finally, the 4th rung are the goals in our life. And goals are nothing more than the dream with a deadline. So let me talk to you just a little bit today about goals. So I've been teaching this for a long time, and I used to teach about goals, and I used to make them the number 1 thing. Let's set some goals, and let's get them on our calendar, and let's reach the goals. Well, I don't start with goals anymore. We start with values and then habits. Because if we can reach a goal, but I have found that a goal is temporary, and they should be temporary. I always say this: if your goals aren't expandable, then they're expendable. So let me give you an example. We might reach a goal, but if we didn't build it around a value or a system, another word for a habit, then we might have done the thing one time. I might have been generous one time, or I might have reached a goal one time, but it didn't become who I am. It didn't become part of my identity. It was just a behavioral thing that I wanted to do. And then the goal, really then it becomes a grind. It's not fun to reach the goal. Let me give you an example of this. If I decided that my goal was to clean out the garage, well, I could finally set a Saturday aside and I could clean out the garage and I could feel really good. I made one of my goals. And that's not bad in and of itself, but I'd rather that goal be attached to a mindset, which is a habit, which is tied to a value, because now it's not just about the goal that I check off, it's in the process of climbing the ladder that I embody that goal. I become who that is. And that's when I own it, and that's when goals become really, really fun. They're not so much a chore. It's not like I have to. It's more like I get to. So I'd rather the goal of cleaning out the garage be tied to a habit, a mindset, and a value that says, I value being an organized person. And I'm making habits on how to stay organized. And my mindset is that now it's all about the system. We'll never sustain any goal or dream life that we haven't built a routine around. And so I just encourage you to now look at if my goal is attached to a value that I have. Now it's not something hard, and now instead of being one of the 97% that never reach your goals, maybe you flip the script and you're part of the, maybe we change the stat, but you're for sure part of the group that you're reaching your goals, because it's not as hard. It's a part of who you are and a part of the system you've built through the habits. It's the way you think through the mindsets and so forth and so on. So that's a little bit about goals and why we put goals out there a little bit later in the whole process. But once you set your goals, I always work backwards from the target. Another Charlie Brown story that I always loved was the picture of Charlie Brown shooting arrows into a fence. And then Linus would take a bucket of paint and go and draw the target around the arrow. I think a lot of us just live life that way. We're like an octopus on roller skates. It's just a shotgun approach to life and whatever happens. But what goals do for us is they draw targets. They determine our behavior. And here's a little mantra: check your goals and check your behaviors and make sure they match. In other words, what am I doing today to help me accomplish that goal? What habit have I started? What value am I reinforcing? How is my mind working to reach that goal? And so check your behavior and check your goals and make sure they match. And don't waste your time on things that aren't helping propel you to the life that you desire to live. And so let me give you one more thing. So you backfill your calendar. So I have a habit where every Sunday I look at, here's my goals, and I backfill my calendar with making sure that I have those goals somewhere put into my calendar. Back in the before I had a cell phone, back in the late 80s, early 90s, I used to literally photocopy a monthly calendar and highlight. I would color coordinate all the goals. So let me show you how this works. So one of my values is family. And so when my kids were little, we had a habit, and the habit was every Friday night was family night. And so there's mindsets around that. But what I would do is that my goal was then every Friday night was dinner night, date night, junk food night, and movie night. And so I backfilled my calendar with those activities because my goal was to have a good relationship with my kids and prove to them that they were number one in my life. And they're now grown, and I feel like we've reached that goal because we took that and we attached it to values and habits and mindsets and filled the calendar with it. All right, let me do one more thing, because sometimes it's hard just to set arbitrary goals. And so you got to have short-term, long-term, mid-term, goals. And so let me just give you some goal categories. And I would just challenge you to maybe make one goal in every one of these categories. And all these categories, they might not relate to you. I'm going to give you 10 just to give you something to think about. But you might only have, I don't know, maybe you choose half of them. You have 5 categories. So let me give you the 10 categories that I use in my life. And you can modify it however you want. You might add to it. You might take away from it. But here are mine. Number 1. And they're not in any kind of particular order. But number 1 is financial goals. What financial goals do you have? Do you have a goal to save a certain amount of money, to make a certain amount of money, to whatever? So financial goals. Number 2 is your adventure goals. Do you have some adventure goals? I want to go skydiving. Somebody might say that's not a goal or a dream. That's more of a nightmare. But what are your adventure goals? One of my adventure goals of this season of my life is I love when me and my son, we get to go hike a mountain together. Or me and my daughter, we get to go see a play together. And so I have some adventure goals. Some of them I've met. I've taken my daughter to Broadway and we've seen shows together. And I want to walk her down the red carpet one day and go to the Oscars. Or me and my son, maybe we'll go hike the Grand Canyon. Or so just adventure goals. That's to have some adventure. Live your life. And so adventure goals. Number 3 is health goals. What are your health goals? Maybe I just want to have more energy. So what am I doing about that? Number 4 is my intellectual goals. My goal this year was I wanted to be more productive in what I was learning. So I forced myself to read some books that were outside of my normal go-to. And so intellectual goals. Or how about spiritual goals? What goals do you have? To have some quiet time? Maybe to develop a prayer life? Just some spiritual goals. Number 6 is your emotional goals. In other words, goals like I don't want emotions to have me. I want to be able to control my emotions. And so some emotion, how do I build my emotional me? Number 7 is professional goals. What do I want to do with my company or where I work, or what are my professional goals? Maybe to start a company. How about this one? This one's important to me as I've kind of in my 50s now, I think about my legacy goals. In other words, now I'm not so much living in my 20s, I was living for what I could get. I find myself more and more now living for how can I help others? What am I going to leave behind? Legacy is something that too many people wait to leave behind. It's something that I believe we could live right now. Matter of fact, you can order my book, Living Your Legacy. And in fact, you can do it right on this webpage. So, and then number 9 is my character goals. What kind of little things do I need to tweak? Maybe I need to elevate my integrity level a little bit. Maybe I need to show up on time. Maybe I need to return the phone call that I said I would. And then number 10 is just what I call family goals. And I kind of already talked about that earlier in the adventure goals, but family goals. You might have more. I'm sure this list isn't exhausting, but I can't keep up with more than 10. So I give you 10. You might reduce it to 3 or 4. But those are just some goals. And so those are the 4 steps to your dream life. Again, me and my partner Coit, we coach on this. There's long teachings on every one of these rungs. There's a link on this page to get you to olinleadership.com that can help you if you want further help or coaching. We'd be glad to coach you up and just partner with you as you reach for your dream life. Thanks so much for listening.